Welcome to the Obvious Podcast, episode number 63. My name is Sonny Macon.
And I'm Peter Daiga, President and CEO at ABC Florida East Coast Chapter. You're listening to the Obvious Podcast, where all opinions expressed are our own, unless we state otherwise. Love the show? We ask you to subscribe on any major podcast platform, or watch us in action on YouTube. Follow the Obvious Podcast on TikTok, Instagram, X, and True Social. All the links you need are in the show notes. Reach out to us anytime at theobvious@abceastflorida.com. And if you're enjoying the ride, we ask you to help others find us by leaving us a review wherever you listen. Happy Friday, Sonny.
Happy Friday. How are you, Peter?
I'm terrific. So what exciting topic do we have to talk about this week?
Today we're talking about Dick.
Excuse me?
Dick Cheney.
Yes. So
I'm sorry. I grew up at a time.
Former Vice President.
Our former Vice President.
You know,
I should not be laughing. God bless his soul.
Right.
He just passed away recently. But I just, he was a very controversial figure. By the way, what is with these strange politicians named Dick Cheney? And then there was a guy named Dick Armey, right? So I remember being, of course, an immature individual in high school, and obviously as an immature adult. Yeah. And laughing because every time I heard their stupid names on TV. Right. Anyway, I wanted to talk to you about...
Dick ever become a nickname for Richard?
Richard, I don't know. I don't know how you extrapolate that out of there.
Anyway, it's an interesting individual.
He's yeah.
Part of me, when the news came across the morning, he was 1 year older than my mom, who I lost, many, many years ago. So it kind of, when somebody dies who's close to her age, it kind of draws for me like the years I missed, right? Yeah. Somebody from the same period and whatnot. So, on the one hand, I think, wow, what a full life the guy lived, right? And he struggled a lot with health issues. Yeah.
Like a 32 or something.
Yeah. Right? I mean, I also learned, which I didn't know, I guess for a period of his life, I don't know if he, when he quit or if he quit, but he was like a three packs a day smoker. The guy was like really smoked a lot. So anyway, he struggled a good part of his life with different health issues, but he had a lifelong record of serving the country, and part of me, because part of my political evolution was coming to appreciate more of the criticisms, if you will, of Dick Cheney.
Yeah.
Although there are some things in his career that I probably would find more appealing or defend and whatnot. But, and then later in life, he had his daughter, which was a perfect pain in the ass. Yeah. Lynn Cheney, right?
Liz Cheney,
sorry.
Lynn was the wife.
So any event, he's an interesting figure. The left universally despised him and always has, but they like Liz.
Yeah. Yeah, because she hates Trump.
And
then he jumped on the
anyway, interesting family. But I was struck with all my different mixture of emotions when I heard about his death, with the thought that, but we're different. We're different on the right. I don't have to necessarily have agreed with everything of this man, and I grew politically away from his neocon, which a lot of people put him in the neocon category of conservatism. Yeah. But it doesn't mean you can't recognize the fact that he had a life of service, I think, to the country.
Would you call it service?
I see you, but, so I don't know. I feel like we're different. We don't have to despise someone in death.
I don't despise the guy, but I feel like he damaged the Republican, certainly the Republican brand.
He might have.
He damaged the Republican, he damaged the country. I feel like he damaged...
Well, a lot of leftists would argue that with the whole waterboarding defense, which to his day he died. That's the one that I liked.
That didn't bother me. I was like, you waterboard
weapons of mass destruction, right? Yeah. I mean, that was kind of like
it was a bullshit excuse
that came days after.
I didn't like him from the very beginning, right? So
really, I
mean, from the very beginning. Yeah. You know what bothered me? So I never really thought George Bush was a bright guy. Mm-hmm. Okay. Right? The son always struck me as just a frat boy who, because of his name and power, got elected president. Because he's a likable guy. Like, you go drinking with him.
Went to Yale, right?
Went to Yale, wasn't undergrad, I think Yale MBA.
Okay.
I think. But not that bright of a guy. I mean, listen, if you're legacy, I mean, my gosh, these legacy people. they get into anything. And not just legacy, but to be a Bush legacy, right? So, I mean, that's a whole different conversation we can talk about. But I never thought Bush was that bright. And it hit me when he tried to appoint Harriet Miers to the Supreme Court. I can't believe I remember that name. Because Harriet Miers ran his committee to pick the next Supreme Court justice or judge, right? And the Bush family has a record of picking terrible Supreme Court judges, right?
Sure.
And I'm like, what an idiot. And then he did the same thing with Cheney, because what he does is he puts these ambitious people on the committee to run the search.
Right.
And they're like, oh, we can't find anybody. And then, what about me? I'm right here, right? And Bush was like, yep, you're great. And I'm like, dude.
That's the story about how he became vice president.
That's how he became vice president.
He was headed the search committee, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Like Harriet Miers was the head of the committee to find the judge. And this lady had record, not to get off the topic.
I'm with you. I mean, I got a lot of bones to pick with the man and with decisions but I don't know. To me, there's something about at the end of a person's life, you can just reflect on the fact that he tried. And you and I have had a lot of conversations too about, what my struggles with, you should take people at their word. Although your common sense and your gut reaction tells you there's other stuff going on, but you have nothing more than a person's word, sometimes.
Right. I know. But okay, here's the other thing that really annoys me about some of these people from rinky-dink states who get elected to huge offices. Like he came from Wyoming. I was super curious about Wyoming's population.
That's something I admired about him, by the way. He'd always kept his love for Wyoming, right? He still lived there.
It's a beautiful state. How could you not love Wyoming, right?
Well, there's plenty of people, especially that wind up in California or somewhere else, I mean, the man loved the state he was from and educated in, I think, for part of his education.
Because he got drunk and got booted out of school or something. But he was elected in the 70s from Wyoming. Wyoming's population in the 70s was 340,000. That's a whole damn state.
Right.
I'm like, dude, not a lot of people.
I thought you were going to tell me 340.
And it always bothered me that he came from such a rinky-dink state and he becomes this national figure. Yeah. Just like it bothered me.
How does that happen?
Remember the lady McCain picked? I can't think of her name now. Sarah Palin. Yeah. Right? 800,000 is the population of Alaska. When she became governor, in that entire race, 400,000 people voted. Out of that, she got I think 120,000. I'm like 120,000 people and gets on a national ticket? Yeah. That's insane to me. But anyway, that's a whole different topic of conversation. But the whole thing.
That'll be another obituary that you'll be like.
Yeah, I'll be like, Sarah Palin. I mean, I one thing that always bothered me about Dick Cheney was I always felt like this, and it's not a Dick Cheney phenomenon, but this idea of we can make the whole world like us, and the cost be damned. And I mean that in lives and in treasure, doesn't matter. And this, we can contort and get the whole world to be more like us. Yeah. And
that was pretty. I mean, as far as I can recall, and I go back a little further in time than you do, but have you always been objected to that idea?
Yes.
Because that was pretty universally accepted right of center Republican idea.
I never bought into
for a good part of, look, we still believe we have something special here, in terms of our republic, and the values. And it's no different than Christianity trying to, it's different in the sense of one's religious as opposed to, secular or whatnot. But not different in the sense of when you believe you have something worthy of passing on, for different reasons, obviously, in the two examples, you work for it, and you believe, you can do it. So, but I think it's been relatively new or modern idea on the right, at least, of, there's some places we're not going to be able to impact or change. Or I would like to think we don't necessarily see you can't, but I think what we think now on the right is there are other things that have got to be in place before some of these other secular changes, or whether you're going to have a democracy or human rights, and there are other values and things that got to change in your culture, and it can't just be imposed upon you by the United States or
So let me tell you a story about Egypt. Okay, Egypt, and it's related to Dick Cheney because Dick Cheney's best friend in his entire political career was a guy named Don Rumsfeld. Don Rumsfeld holds the distinction of being the youngest and the oldest defense secretary this country ever had. Oh, I don't know. Well, I don't know if this what's this new guy's name? The guy now.
Pete Hegseth.
Hegseth. I don't know if Hegseth was younger, so he might have changed the record books a little bit.
Right.
But at least prior to Hegseth, that distinction belonged to Rumsfeld. When Anwar Sadat was assassinated in Egypt for signing the peace deal with Israel by one of his own soldiers, the U.S. government, because of the whole Suez Canal thing, got really worried about Egypt. So, as the Secretary of Defense, Rumsfeld flew to Egypt, basically handpicked a guy from the military, a guy named Hosni Mubarak, and made him the leader, made him the president. And I don't know if you know this, but for years and years and years, the Egyptian military has received more money in foreign aid than any other country in the U.S., even more so than Israel. And so Hosni Mubarak ran Egypt for a long time, until Barack Obama's years, when the Arab Spring took place. Hosni Mubarak understood one thing, that he had a country of 88 million people and no natural resources with a high unemployment rate. So he kept it under wraps and kept it control with an iron fist. Here comes Barack Obama. The Arab Spring is happening. A lot of these dictators in all these Arab countries are falling by the wayside because the young people are pissed. The young people are angry about the lack of good governance that they have had their whole lives. Barack Obama pulls his support from Hosni Mubarak. Hosni Mubarak gets knocked over. The country decides to have elections. First election they have, they elect the Muslim Brotherhood, right? And the Americans are like, oh crap, what is going on here, right? So here comes the American influence.
What a shock. Right. I mean, nobody could have predicted this.
So they appointed a guy named General Assisi, who's still there, after deposing the democratically elected Muslim Brotherhood that the people wanted. And I just look at that and I just think, okay, you have this opportunity. You're like, hey, let's experiment with Western-style democracy. Gaza had elections. Guess who they elected? They elected Hamas, right? Western-style democracy fails again and again and again and again, and especially in that part of the world. And this idea that we could go and spend, $2 trillion, $3 trillion, I mean, numbers just kind of roll off the tongue so easily. In Iraq, I had a very, very close friend of mine who, what's the fancy word for a map maker? Cartographer?
Sounds like it.
Cartographer, right? He was a cartographer for the U.S. Army. He would fly in planes and he would basically take pictures of the Iraqi terrain, and they would use U.S. taxpayer money to build these roads, right? Now, everybody knows this. So the roads are built by an Iraqi contractor. Then that Iraqi contractor would go back to ISIS, give them some money and say, blow it up so that the U.S. government will pay me more money to rebuild it. Like, this is common knowledge. They had no interest in democracy. And this idea that this guy, Dick Cheney, is out there shedding blood when he himself never served.
Those are the kind of people the left love. I mean, remember they pitched a fit about Pete Hegseth.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the most experienced.
Who like served at Harvard and so is an extremely bright guy. But like Dick Cheney, so you've heard us on, if you've been watching the show or listening to the show, you've heard us use the word neocons, right? And that phrase is really in reference to people who want to go and engage in active nation building, right?
Yeah.
Well, nation destruction, then nation.
Well, and the term, it really only came about when the right was starting to have. There were people that kind of were disagreeing with that. There was a time when it would be you'd be hard pressed to find somebody that necessarily disagreed.
Yeah, they would call you an isolationist.
Right. So you didn't need a separate term, but as the right of center evolved, if you will, and there are people today that, and some people argue that's one of the things, of many things, that sets Trump apart, right? He's not one of those interventionist, neocon, get involved in every part of the world, and quite the opposite.
But I'll tell you what, he's been consistent. I've been watching Trump's interviews since the 90s. talking about how stupid this policy is, and how the Republicans are just wasting money and time and forget the time and the money. I get annoyed by the lives lost. Again, like we say about the liberals, the neocons are immune from the policies they perpetuate on the rest of the world. It's never their kids who die. Never. It's not their money. It's not their children. It's the rest of the country that pays the price. Not to mention the millions of natives who get killed.
So Iran was developing nuclear weapons deep in these bunkers, 3 different bunkers.
Yeah.
The neocons would have tried to, get involved, spend money, evolve the democracy in Iran.
Yep.
The people that aren't neocons like Trump just dropped a bomb down the shaft.
Yep. Exactly.
But we have the same value
Yeah.
in the sense of we can't let you have these weapons of mass destruction,
Right.
but one side is going to want to use all these
We don't
other
live under this illusion that the whole world wants to be a Western-style democracy or a republic. They just don't. And because every time not every time, but there's been so many examples, you give them a chance. I mean, I remember when the Muslim Brotherhood took over Egypt, like the first thing, 2 days later, a Coptic Christian church got blown up. I mean, the Egyptian Christians have paid a heavy price for that. The only people that are really protected the Egyptian Christians. By the way, Saddam Hussein protected the Christians in Iraq. Iraq had a vibrant Christian community that got destroyed by the Persian, Gulf War. I'm getting my names now mixed up. When the U.S. invaded, and the architect of so much of that was Cheney. And what irritated me was like, listen, if you had half a brain, you knew Iraq had nothing to do with 9/11, right? I'm all for going into Afghanistan and blowing that country up and trying to find that guy, which they couldn't even find. Even that glory went to Barack Obama. And anyway, I mean, I don't wish the guy dead. Like, I mean, he lived to 84, and then to turn on Trump, to defend his daughter, I was watching them portrayed as a hero because one of his daughters, not Liz, but the other daughter is gay, and he came out for gay marriage before any other Republican did, and they were like, yep, and I'm like, okay, I mean, that's fine, but like this whole idea of these are the values, but these are my values that are okay. I'm changing because they affect me personally, right? I mean, that's kind of what he did. And anyway,
God rest his soul.
God rest his soul.
Sonny, jeez.
I'm sorry. He really, he just rubs me the wrong way.
Woo. Okay. So, by the way, I think we can have an honest conversation about all these things.
Yeah.
But and that was my point, is that, when you first hear the news and I reflect on, my God, he was only a year older than my mom, who I lost a long time ago. And despite all the differences and the way the political right of center has evolved over the course of his career, he still had, a career, quote unquote, of service. I know you question what do you mean by service?
The impact, career of impact.
There's sacrifice, I think, when you serve in the public, although, in later years, which is why the left hated him. He went to work for BlackRock, or no, who was it? The oil company. I forget.
Yeah.
Anyway, I mean, they hated him for that, because I think they were.
I thought that was BS.
Of course it was.
Like,
you can't go to work.
Right, to get my own company contract.
Yeah,
like, come on.
Yeah,
that's stupid. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things that he got hammered in the media for,
right,
that were just profoundly stupid. And
sure.
I mean, there were plenty of legitimate reasons why you could criticize that guy. Yeah. And of course, leave it to the left.
I mean, he was one of the staunchest defenders of the policy of waterboarding. And again,
I agreed with him on that.
Right. And he would argue that, you don't know, you didn't see the things that we saw and the information that we needed in order to prevent some of the things we saw. That was his argument to this dying breath, that it was the right decision.
I don't even care about that. I saw 9/11. Like, to me, that's enough, right? Like, watching that was horrific enough that I'm like, all right, if you need to prevent that from happening, prevent it. Right? And of course, like, leave it to Dick Cheney to take it all the way on the other side of, like, tapping American phones and going after American citizens and the Patriot Act, right? Which really went overboard. This was the CEO of Palantir. If you ever want to watch an interesting interview, he was on CNBC on, I'll tell you what date that was. It was Tuesday, November 4th, that he did an interview on CNBC, and he's talking about you're never going to have 100% security with privacy. Like, just never going to have it.
Of course.
Right? So you have to
course.
accept a certain level of risk.
Yep.
And I feel
especially if you want to live in a free society.
Especially if you want to live in a free society. I don't think Cheney could ever make peace with that.
Franklin had a famous quote about that.
Those who trade security for
liberty
deserve neither.
Yeah, or will have neither. Or
will have neither, yeah. Anyway, we're out of time. Sorry I went off on this episode, but I've had years of consternation towards
Right. This is though, I don't know. This is the difference though between the right. We'll sit back when one of our own, quote unquote, dies and have an honest conversation.
I'm not celebrating the guy's death. I'm not saying he deserves to die. God rest his soul.
Yeah.
This is not. I just his legacy is just not all of
right. But we can have an honest conversation,
cream.
which unfortunately I don't know that I can recall ever the left having this honest a conversation that we've had here in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
About Dick Cheney.
Yeah.
About any of their people.
I know.
It's the whitewash, any of the controversies or any of the questions, and again, who's served by that?
Nobody.
Yeah, really.
And again, I'll say this again. You cannot hate the media enough in this country.
I'll double down on that.
It is absolutely in every way a shit show. And if you are not paying attention to your sources of information, you're going to be misguided and misled constantly.
So anyway.
Thank you for joining us.
Yep. Dick Cheney, rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
So, till next time.
Take care.